Jai Hind, Namaste, hello and a very warm welcome to UPSC for everyone. My name is Abhinav and in this video we'll be discussing the Hindu and the Indian Express for the date 17th of November 2020. Now for your convenience, I have added timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip to a particular news, please use those timestamps. Also, free PDF for selected topics are available on our Telegram channel, the link to which is in the description. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos that we post. Also, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. So without wasting your time, let's get started. So starting with the Hindu, just the headline. Then this one, let us see. So Moderna now says its vaccine is 94.5% effective. This is an American company. We've already discussed about the Pfizer vaccine and also the Sputnik V, both having more than 90% effectiveness. And now this one is having 94.5. So this is an early look, but it won't be widely available for months, probably till next spring. And this one has a longer shelf life under refrigeration and at room temperature than previously thought. And this has to be stored at minus 20 degrees Celsius, right? Now, how is it done? We've discussed everything, so now I'm not going to get into it. You can read from the PDF. Not conclusive yet because they have just released their findings in news releases and not in peer-reviewed scientific journals. So we still have to wait. And these results cannot be considered conclusive. New way of creating vaccine because they are using mRNA technology, and we've been discussing mRNA for 5-6 videos, so you can read it again. And then use of spike protein, S protein, the site of S protein. I've also described this, right? Now there are several unknowns, like we don't know whether the vaccine will work equally well in older and younger people. Will it prevent people from spreading the virus? How long the immunity would be lasting? And since the vaccine must be stored and transported at low temperatures, minus 20 degrees Celsius, then it would complicate their distribution because of the problem in logistics, more so in our country because we are lacking the cold storage facilities, right? So this is all about it. Then this one, winter session of parliament unlikely amid rising COVID cases. So some important points for your PT. Number one, till now there have been only 3 instances in 1975, 79 and 84 when winter sessions were not held, right? Who decides on the dates? The Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, but it is the President who announces the dates and prorogues the session. Now the Constitution mandates that there should be not more than a gap of 6 months or more between 2 sessions, and that is as per Article 85 of the Constitution. So this is all that you need to know from this. Now page 6 editorial, threat or treat. So this is about RCEP, and today we'll be discussing 3-4 articles about RCEP. 1 from the Hindu and I guess 2 from the Indian Express. This one begins by telling us that after 7 years of negotiations, we backed out. We justified our stand because we wanted to protect our economy from burgeoning trade deficits, with a majority of 15 RCEP members citing grouping's refusal to accede to our demands. We had very specific demands and we'll discuss what those demands are when we discuss the Indian Express, right? So now RCEP have left the door open for us. They have also waived off the 18-month cooling period for us, right? The final agreement shows some of the demands that we were asking. They are reflected in the final agreement. For example, we had issues including the rules of origin, trade in services, movement of persons, remedies and safeguards. So some of them have been addressed in the final document, but yet they are not as per our satisfaction. Now about RCEP, we discussed yesterday, no point of me telling you can read that. Now signing of RCEP, it symbolizes that economic realism trumps nationalistic policies, because most of these countries in the RCEP bloc, including countries from the ASEAN and Japan and Australia, they all are having problems with China, but still they signed this agreement in hopes of boosting their economies, right? So economic realism is trumping nationalistic priorities. So this is all about it. Then this one. So this is basically telling us about how technology is touching the sectors which were not hitherto thought to be linked to technology. For example, governance and sectors like automobile. So he's giving some good examples. So he begins by telling us about Moore's law. Now what is Moore's law? It basically says that the number of transistors on a microchip double every 2 years, though the cost of computers is halved. Now because of this law, technology has surged faster, right? More so in the traditional industries. Now information-based technologies have widely adopted across a board of range of industries and products, right? Now he says that information is the new currency powering economies. Like I tell you that knowledge is power in this century. It drives processes and decision making across a wide array of products and services, including governance. Then he says that data is new currency. He gives example that a modern automobile has 40% of its component value from electronic based products. Now see, these electronic based products and softwares, they are non-tangible things and they are actually adding value to tangible things. For example, your mobile phone. Now, if it is without any software, right, or an operating system, it is useless. So its body is something tangible that you can touch and feel, but the software is what really makes it work, right? Software is the real part that differentiates among different phones, right? So the real thing that is adding value to your mobile phone is the software, and that is the intangible part, right? So that is what he's telling, that in normal cars, we see 40% of that, and in electronic cars, the smart cars, we have close to 100 million lines of code, which is more than a Boeing 787 jet, right? That is what he's saying, that there is a paradigm shift as the amount of value added from intangible technology services as opposed to physical objects, even in traditional goods, is being transformed by information. So this non-tangible, intangible technology is adding value to every tangible product and service around us. Then he says there is increasing digitization, electronification of industrial activities, products and services influencing the evolving skill sets in industry, and that is very true, right? Then he's talking about the government departments, that they have been working in silos, like departments which are isolated from each other, right? But this new era and this new technology is calling for increasing interdependence, right? And synergy among different departments. So how to do that? Using technology. So that is what he's saying, to address the needs of various stakeholders, government have tended to build specialized departments. Then he says that the recent development in technology have blurred the standard boundaries that dictate policy framework. So if you take India, for example, industrial promotion policies look at encouraging capital formation from a manufacturing perspective, but really capital formation is coming from the software perspective, right? The data perspective. So government has to change its policy to include that as well. That is what he's saying. Then again, he's giving an example of automobile industry, that it is being governed by Ministry of Heavy Industries and Surface Transport Ministries, but there should also be role of MIT because of increasing role of technology and digitization in the automobile industry. Similarly, he's giving the example of drones. Like drones are being governed by Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Civil Aviation, right? But there is also big role for Department of Agriculture, because drones are being heavily used in agriculture and they have a potential. So Department of Agriculture and Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Civil Aviation, they should all work in tandem. That is what he's telling. Taking an aggregate view, that is what he's saying, that we need to have a holistic view of policies for economic development, as technology is becoming significant enabler in most industries, and that is very, very true. Then he talks about the concept of creating clusters of companies, like we have industrial towns, cities, and we have industrial clusters, right? So he also wants in the cluster of companies in adjacent, and they are having complementary areas, right? So that would be compromising an ecosystem that encourages multi and cross-disciplinary learning and spur innovation and economic development, because today economic development is all about innovation. Then he's also talking about that there is a larger issue of shift of value between manufacturing and services as technology changes, which is also true. So the government policy by and large promotes and gives incentives for manufacturing, whereas the share of intangibles is neglected. But it is very important to give importance to intangibles, because it is the intangibles that are really adding value to service. For example, you go to watch a movie. Now you would prefer a movie which has high technology, special effects and whatnot, right? And again, you would prefer a cinema hall which is giving you good facilities, right? So those are all enabled by technology, the software. So that needs to be accounted in the government policies. That is what he is saying. So these are the broad contours of this article. You can read this. I've just given you a gist of it, right? Then this one on page 7. So this is basically talking about the women in our labor force, their declining rate of participation, and some problems with the new labor laws. It has also given us some good figures, right? So I will be giving you again broad contours, and you can read the figures and whatnot from the PDF. And I urge you to save this, because these figures are very, very relevant for you. So let us dig into it. So first of all, she says that this year 2020 is very important for the status of women, because it is the anniversary of two major events. First is the report towards equality, right? This was released by Committee on Status of Women in India, and it focused on women-sensitive policy making in India and provided fresh perspective on gender equality. Second is 25th anniversary of Beijing Platform for Action, which is a benchmark for analyzing the condition of women and state-led empowerment. So these are the two major events, right? Now, second, she makes a point that India's female employment trends do not resonate with its high economic growth, low fertility, and rise in female schooling. So she tells us that between 2004 and 18, the gender gap in workforce participation has increased, right? So she quotes the recently released periodic labor force survey of 2018-19 that there has been a fall in absolute employment for both men and women, but more so for women. These are the figures, right? So you can read them. Then she also quotes the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report, which ranks India 149 among 153 countries. Then she also talks about gender wage gap, which is highest in Asia in case of India. Women earn 34% below men for equal work with equal qualifications, right? And this is as per 2019 Oxfam report. So these figures are very, very important for your paper 1 GS, also for someone who's preparing for sociology. So all of this, she says, stifles women's labor force participation, which has been guaranteed by India's Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. Now, the third major point that she's making is that women disproportionately populate India's informal economy and are concentrated in low-paid, highly precarious jobs. For example, over 60% of our 4.75 million domestic workers are women as per the NSS survey 2005. The service sector also sees women disproportionately involved in care work. Then manufacturing has only around 14% of female workers, and that too almost completely informally. And then there is a survey by India Spend that about 13% of women tillers owned their land in 2019. Again, some points, some figures, please make it a point that you save them. Then the fourth theme or point she's making is the fallout due to COVID. She is quoting the CMIE report. We've already discussed this, that 39% of women lost their jobs in April to May compared to 29% of men, right? And India's strikingly unequal gender division of household work has worsened during this pandemic. Women spend an unpaid 3 times as per NSS and 6 times as per OECD more time than men in household works, which is the stark reality of a country. Then she's also quoting WHO that 70% of world's healthcare and social workers are women. And in India, women are indispensable as frontline ASHA workers, but they are underpaid and overworked. Fifth point she's making is that she is criticizing the recently introduced labor laws. She says that these codes acknowledge neither the gender wage gap nor the non-payment of wages and bonuses for women. Though they allow women to work night shifts, but there is little focus on accountability, and protection from sexual harassment at workplace is still missing. If you remember, I've told you about Vishakha judgment. Then she talks about maternity benefits remaining unchanged from 2017 amendment with an insensitively formulated adoption leave policy. So she is commenting upon the adoption leave policy, and these benefits haven't changed from 2017 amendment. So she says that this labor laws, they also disregard women's work conditions. So these are the broad contours. Rest you can read from the PDF. Then this is important for your PT, or you could say for GS paper 3, for just citing an example. So there's nothing much for me to explain. I've put it in the PDF. You can read it by yourself. Then just the headline, Pakistan continues to raise terror charges. So we know what Pakistan is. So no need to get into it. If you want, you can read it. Again, nothing for me to explain here. Then this one on page 10, comply with FDI ceiling, government tells digital news firms. I have put everything in the PDF. There are just 3 broad contours. So number 1, all the digital news firms that are operating in India, they have to bring down their FDI to 26%. If they have breached the 26% limit, they have to bring it down to 26%. That is number 1. Number 2, they have to inform the government, even if their FDI is below 26%, about its investors, their names and addresses, right? So these are the broad contours, and government is tightening the noose around these digital news firms because most of the times they're getting money from abroad from vested interests. So Ministry of INB issued detailed guidelines notification for digital news portals to comply with 26% cap on FDI. This decision was taken in last year. Now they have firmed this decision. Even the companies with investment below 26% cap have to intimate ministry about the shareholding pattern and names and addresses of directors. These details have to be submitted within a month. The firms which have more than 26% FDI have been instructed to take steps to bring down the figure to just 26% maximum before October 15, 2021. So this is all about it. Then world page 13, the most important news. First of all, this little news, we will not give up cartoons, asserts Macron. So France is firm on its stand and Europe is standing with France, and many changes regarding Islamists and extremists are going to happen in coming years and weeks and months. We'll see in Europe. For example, Austria has come out with very tough measures to check this Islamic fundamentalism and extremism. Now, this is the one we'll be discussing, right? If you remember yesterday, I told you that we'll be discussing it someday. So today is the day that we'll be discussing it. So let's dig into it. So Ethiopia's Nobel Prize winning Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed started a military operation against Tigray region, right? Now the main party or the group concerned is Tigray People's Liberation Front, which is a militia cum political party that runs in northern region. Now before we get into it, first of all, let us understand the population composition of this country, Ethiopia. And also let me tell you that this region is called Horn of Africa. If you look at it, this resembles a kind of a horn, right? And this is right at the entrance of Gulf of Aden and Red Sea, which provides access to Suez Canal, and Suez Canal opens way to the European region. So this is also an important shipping route. And this region has been in news in recent past because of piracy activities around this Horn of Africa. And major reason for piracy is political instability in the region and many militias running afoul, right? So whenever political instability increases in the region, then the piracy activities also increase, right? So today we are going to discuss about this country, Ethiopia. This Tigray region, I've already told you, Tigray people. Then they are sharing a border with, this Tigray region is sharing a border with both Sudan and Eritrea. It has a problem with Eritrea, these Tigray people, but not with Sudan. Now let us look at the population composition of this country. So there are basically three main groups: Tigray people, who make up roughly only 6% of the population, then Oromos 34% share, and then the Amharas 27% share, and rest are other people of mixed ethnicities. Now that is the problem in this country, that Tigrays, though they are only 6% of the population, they dominate, or they have been dominating since 1991 in the political arena, and the power has been disproportionately tilted in the favor of Tigray people. So this unsettled the other ethnic groups. So now Mr. Abiy Ahmed, he is an Omoros. When he became a prime minister, he started shifting this power structure and power equations, and that unsettled the Tigray people. Then he cancelled the elections in Ethiopia in light of COVID infection. So the Tigray leadership, they shifted back to their region and they conducted an election directly mounting a challenge at the prime minister. Then these Tigray group, this TPLF, it mounted an attack on military installation of the government, and it seized some weapons, and that prompted Mr. Ahmed to start a military operation. So that is the overall background, right? Now, who's TPLF? So basically it started as a resistance army in 1975 against military dictatorship called the Derg. The Derg was a leftist party. It was established in 1974 and it remained in power in 1991 when it was finally ousted by armed rebels. Now, out of these rebels, TPLF emerged as heroes, right? They played a crucial role. And the country's first interim president in 1991 and first elected prime minister in 1995 was Meles Zenawi, who also belonged to the Tigrayan people. Now, he's largely seen as the architect of country's ethno-federal system, and he remained in power till 2012. Now, the different ethnic groups, they came together and they formed this party called EPRDF, right? Which was a coalition of different ethnicities. Now, it maintained stability and economic growth for around 17 years, but then it was also accused of increasingly authoritarianism, and frequent mass protests were happening against this government, right? So in 2018, EPRDF chose Mr. Abe, a former military intelligence officer, to lead the government amid growing protests and political deadlock. Now, I've already told you about the three main groups. So Mr. Abe is an Omoro. He took steps to cut outsized influence of the TPLF in the government. He purged TPLF functionaries from key government posts, released political prisoners who were jailed by TPRF-led government, and promised freer media. He also reached out to Eritrea, I just showed you on the map, which is a sworn enemy of TPLF. So this all steps, they rattled the TPLF. He became country's first Oromo leader. His actions are not driven by ethnic calculations, that is what he said, but rather aimed at addressing the historical power imbalances and making peace with neighbors. But TPLF saw his moves as hostile. Now the war begins, like I told you. Abe formed a new political coalition, the Prosperity Party, all constituents of EPRDF except the TPLF joined this new platform, right? Now TPLF saw the formation of new party as an attempt by Mr. Abiy to consolidate more power in his hands. The party's leadership shifted from Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia, to Mekelle, Tigray regional capital. Now in August, I told you because of the pandemic, Mr. Abiy, he postponed the parliamentary elections, but TPLF openly challenged and they went ahead holding elections in their own region. And then the TPLF militants attacked Federal Military Command, and that prompted Mr. Abiy to declare military operation. Now there's a geopolitical angle as well. Mr. Abiy's outreach to Eritrea outraged TPLF because TPLF have been engaged in a prolonged war with the Eritrean government over the border. TPLF now accuses Eritrea of backing Mr. Abiy's offensive. So the Tigrayan rebels, they fired rockets into Eritrea, right? And this could lead to a wider regional war in the Horn of Africa. They also fired rounds into neighboring Amhara region. I'll show you. So this is the Tigray region, this is Eritrea, and this is Amhara, right? Now this situation could spill out of control, yes, because of the complexities. And TPLF's old guard, they are having access to thousands of fighters under their command who are war hardened because of their struggle against the erstwhile military dictatorship, right? And this Tigray region also shares a border with Sudan, and this TPLF leadership enjoyed good relations with Sudan's ousted dictator Omar Bashir. So this is basically Sudan. Now let me show you. This is Horn of Africa, like I told you. Again, seed, right? Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti, Gulf of Aden, Red Sea, and here is the Suez Canal, and then Europe. So Asia to Europe, this is the route. This is a very busy shipping route, right? And then piracy, I've already told you about these things, right? Sudan has a border dispute with Ethiopia. If Sudan's new rulers, they join hands with TPLF, then this border could be open for rebels, and then this conflict could become more complex, right? So this could derail Mr. Abiy's reform agenda, and this problem could turn into something very big if this is not controlled in time. Then page 14, a day after RCEP, Jaishankar slams trade pacts, globalisation. So these are some statements made by our external affairs minister. If you want, you can read them. Nothing for me to explain it. Then made in China items find favour with 29% buyers. Lower prices drive decisions, says a survey. So a survey was conducted by local circles, which registered 14,000 respondents. 71% respondents said that they consciously did not buy made in China items, while 29% said they had bought made in China products this festive season. Why? Because they say that it gives them more value for money. So at the end of the day, nationalism goes out of the door when it comes to your own money. This is the sad truth of our country. People are very quick to make comments online about nationalism, about maps and whatnot, and yet they would be using Chinese apps and Chinese products. So this is all that there is to this. Then India sees 375 cyber attacks every day. So this statement was made by National Cyber Security Coordinator, Lieutenant General Rajesh Pant, right? So India is very, very vulnerable to cyber attacks, and more so we've also discussed how these pharma companies have become more vulnerable, and during this COVID period, these cyber criminals, they are using information related to COVID and vaccine to attack your systems and your devices. Now, starting with the Indian Express, this is a political news. If you want, you can read it. Then study on benefits costs help government firm up RCEP stand. So there are some important points, around 9 points, as to why government decided to quit the RCEP, right? So let us get into it. You don't need to buy Indian Express. I have added these articles to the PDF. So you can just read the PDF. These articles are there, but because of time constraint, I could not make them in the usual style. So I've just, copied the screenshot so you can access them. So the first point is that the assessment by the government showed a moderate utilization rate of the FTAs over a 5-year period, and the trade deficit for India in most cases. So what it is trying to say that even if we were to sign the RCEP, our FTAs under the RCEP, they wouldn't have been very much useful for us. As a matter of fact, we would have been in trade deficit. So that is point one. Most importantly, we did not sign because we wanted to stay away from China. Because if we signed RCEP, then we could not have taken any steps against Chinese investments or Chinese goods and products that we've been doing, right? And then there were problems. We'll be discussing them. For example, one of the problem was inability to implement auto-trigger safeguards for domestic industries. Now, what are those? Let us see them. So the first point we saw was that underutilization of FTAs and trade deficit. Second is that India already has bilateral pacts with a number of RCEP members, including the ASEAN bloc, South Korea and Malaysia. And we are also negotiating agreements with some of the RCEP members such as Thailand, Australia and New Zealand, right? So the cost of opting out of the deal is being seen as not outweighing the benefits of keeping China at bay. So our main reason for not joining RCEP is keeping China at bay, and we are going for bilateral deals, and this is what our policy stance is, that we will be going for bilateral deals rather than such deals which harm us in the long run. And we are concluding bilateral deals with a number of RCEP countries. So no need. And if we go for cost benefit analysis, then the costs are more in favor and we are achieving our ultimate aim of keeping China at bay. Also, third point, work is underway to activate the trilateral supply chain resilience initiative. I've already discussed about this, which we are making with Japan and Australia, and maybe in future we'll be adding more members to this, which aims to increase collaboration and cut the dependency on Chinese inputs. Then the fourth point, there is growing view that it would serve India's interest to invest strongly in negotiating bilateral agreements with the US and EU. So like I said, now we are believing in bilateralism more than multilateralism, because wherever there is China, it is going to harm us in the long term, and we are taking a very strong stance against China now. Then fifth, we have already conveyed to the signatories of RCEP sans China that Act Ease was the bedrock of India's economic policy, and our engagement with ASEAN countries and other trading partners would continue. So basically, what we are saying is, just because China is there, that is why we did not sign RCEP, else we would have, and we still want to have close relations with you. Then government assessed various bilateral trade agreements, and it revealed that the compound annual growth rate in trade with our partners from RCEP bloc was modest, just 7.1%, right? There were some exceptions in some sectors, right? For example, iron and steel in India, Korea, SEPA, then India, Japan, SEPA, plastics in Singapore. Now, this is not even important for you. What is important is that there has been a lopsided trade deficit against India in almost most of these FTA deals that we have signed. Now, as far as RCEP members are concerned, our deficit have marginally reduced. But if we talk about ASEAN as a bloc, our trade deficit has increased. So if we would have signed again the RCEP, our trade deficit would have been widened. Then the eighth point is that this pullout is coming at a time when we are reviewing our existing trade agreements. For example, we are reviewing the India-Singapore SECA. Then we are also reviewing the India-Bhutan Agreement on Trade, Commerce and Transit. And we are also reviewing the India-Nepal Treaty of Trade, right? So we are already reviewing our existing trade deals because they are not favoring us. So why to go for a new deal? And the ninth point is that we would be joining as an observer, but in the long term, till the time RCEP does not address our concerns, we will not be joining it. Now, what are those concerns? We will just get to know about them. So concern number one, inadequate protection against surge in imports. For example, there is surge in imports from China for a particular product. Now, when a surge happens, what will happen? That there will be so much of a particular product or a group of products from China. Now, this would crush our domestic industry, right? So they do not have any protections against the surge of imports. So that is why we did not opt. Then the second was possible circumvention of rules of origin. For example, China would be sending its products to other RCEP countries, and from those countries, for example, from some of the RCEP countries, we would be having less customs and other duties. So China would send its product to those countries. Then they would be rebranded, made in Thailand or whatever, and they would be sent to India. And if you remember, we had discussed a month back that China was actually doing this already, and we checked that and we controlled that, right? So this was our second concern, that possible circumvention of rules of origin. First was inadequate protection against surges. Then the third is unable to ensure countermeasures like auto trigger mechanism to raise tariff on products when their imports crossed a certain threshold. Again, for example, China is sending so many products at cheap rates in our country, right? It is literally dumping its products. So there should be some auto trigger mechanism that, for example, if more than 1,000 quintals of Chinese watches reach India, right? Or 100 million Chinese watches reaches in India, then we would be raising the duty to 200%, 300%. So there was no such countermeasure. That is why we did not join. Then we also wanted RCEP to exclude MFN obligations from investments. So basically what happens in MFN, for example, if India were to give MFN status to any one country in the RCEP, then it would have to give the status to all the countries in RCEP. Now the problem was China, because we are already trying to control Chinese investments in our domestic sector, right? And including the critical sectors, right? Now what MFN means that if I give MFN status to any other country, then the investments and the goods and services from that country would be treated at par with the goods and services in my own country. So that is why we did not want, and we wanted this investment to be excluded from MFN obligation under RCEP. Then again, RCEP did not agree to it, and that is why we backed out of it. Then the fifth point is that this MFN would have forced us to extend benefits for sensitive sectors like defense, and we don't want to do that with China, right? And number 6, RCEP also lacked clear assurance over market access issues in countries such as China and non-tariff barriers on Indian companies. Now, what are non-tariff barriers? For example, they might say that Indian pharmaceuticals or Indian products are not meeting standards, safety standards. So those are called non-tariff barriers. So on one hand, China would be exporting its products to India. But on the other hand, when India would try to export its products to China, China would ban those under non-tariff barriers. So there was no clear-cut decision on how to check this. So that is why we backed out of it. So these are the reasons why we did not join RCEP. And finally, what is the strategic importance of India not joining? Rest we have already discussed. We are taking a stand against Chinese aggression. We have hardened that stand. We have also done our cost and benefit analysis. Now what lies ahead? When the Belt and Road Initiative was launched, India did not join, and many politicians and journalists and paid journalists, they wrote editorials about India losing out on opportunities. India should join Belt and Road because all of them get paid by China, right? But we stuck to a stand, and one of the biggest reasons for not joining BRI is that CPEC runs through Gilgit-Baltistan. I've shown you time and again on the map. And were India to join BRI, that would mean that we are giving legitimacy to CPEC. It would mean that India is giving up on its claim on Gilgit-Baltistan. So that is why we never joined it. Initially, people, criticized India. Now all the countries are coming around and they are praising India's stand that India had the vision of not joining the BRI because China is practicing debt diplomacy. This project is going to fail massively in future, right? Then this one, page 8. So this one, only important points for your PT. First, these names of drug-resistant TB drugs, bedaquiline and delaminate, right? They are needed more even during COVID. You can leave that, but you should know these names for your PT, right? Then there was a report released by MSF. MSF is Medicines Sans Frontiers or Doctors Without Borders. It is an international non-profit organization which works in different countries in the health sector, right? So it released a report about this TB control program and how it has taken a backstep during the pandemic, right? So that is what it is talking about. It tells that TB remains the world's top infectious disease killer, with more than 10 million people falling ill and 1.4 million people dying due to this disease in 2019. Now, the national treatment programs must prioritize use of all oral treatment regimens for people with drug-resistant TB that no longer include older toxic drugs that have to be injected and cause serious side effects. Now, again, some surveys and whatnot, you don't need to know that. And one more thing, as highlighted in the report, 85% of the countries surveyed do not use the life-saving point of care urinary TB-LAM test. So what is the test? TB-LAM, which is a routine diagnosis for TB people living with HIV, right? So this test is called TB-LAM. This is a urinary test. So these are all the things that you need to know from this, nothing more. Then Modi to attend BRICS summit, share platform with Z. So just for now, you need to know it is going to be the 12th BRICS summit and its theme will be global stability, shared security and innovative growth, and Russia is hosting this. Now this one, Vulture number stabilizing, MoEF launches action plan to increase the population. So India has 9 recorded species of vultures. 4 are critically endangered, 1 endangered, 3 near threatened. If you remember 2 or 3 videos back, I discussed about sites and I told you about the classification of the threat perception. So this is all about that. So crisis, there was a massive dip in vulture population mid 90s because of use of diclofenac, a veterinary non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. So this drug was used in cattle. Now when those animals died, their carcasses were thrown in the open and vultures used to feed on them. Now because their bodies had diclofenac, vultures would ingest them and that would lead to liver failures and other problems in vulture. So their population started dwindling. Then in 2006, there was a project launched by MoEF, right? So they came up with testing of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs on vultures, development of new NSAIDs, covering of 2 more species in the breeding program that earlier focused on 3 critically endangered, additional conservation breeding centers and 4 rescue centers planned across India, and nationwide vulture survey once in 4 years. So these are the broad contours about this. And these are the other things, nothing for me to explain here. There's a concept of vulture safe zone, right? Then additional conservation breeding centers. So you can read this from the PDF. I have included this article in the PDF. Then this one, SpaceX resilience lifts 4 astronauts into new era of spaceflight. So basically now we are entering into an era of commercial space flights. Anybody who has the money can go on a commercial rocket. So NASA has signed a deal with SpaceX, which is owned by Elon Musk, right? And it would be ferrying the astronauts and the materials to the International Space Station on behalf of NASA, right? And there is another first in this person named Glover. He will be first black astronaut to serve as a member of the International Space Station in the 20-some years that people have been living abroad the International Space Station. So this is all about it. So folks, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel. Also press the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos, and please give us a thumbs up if you liked our videos. Also connect with us on our Instagram page UPSC for everyone, and please connect with us on our Telegram page where you can access the PDFs of the videos that I'll be posting daily, right? So see you next time. Till then, stay happy, stay safe and have a great day. Namaste and Jai Hind.